Koran burning extinguished. That story topping tonight's 2-minute drill. Let's welcome back our panel. We have Matt McCall, Monica Crowley, and Leslie Marshall. Let us fire up the clock. As mentioned, Florida clergyman Terry Jones calling off his Koran burning protest after claiming to reach a deal with Muslim leaders to move the proposed mosque near Ground Zero. Now, center organizers say no such deal exists. So what's the reaction to this? What are we to make of this, Monica?
This is such a completely bizarre story from beginning to end. We don't know what the situation is. I'm glad that this pastor is not going to do this. We are getting a report that the Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates, actually placed a phone call to
It's more than a
Jones.
report. The Pentagon has confirmed that happened.
Right, and he's backing up General Petraeus, who said, look, if this goes forward, I'm going to deal with an even heightened state of violence here in Afghanistan. Please don't make my job harder than it already is. But the question is, it's amazing that we're being lectured to by this imam and by others about religious tolerance from people who wrote the book on religious intolerance. And this idea that somehow Islamic extortion is going on with the imam saying, look, if we move this, you're going to have extra violence, and you're going to have extra violence if we burn the Quran. That is the bigger point, David, that we all need to be educated on.
Leslie, I'm just wondering, just as a reporter, this guy apparently got the wrong message that the mosque is being moved, because we just heard that it's not.
No, this guy is just trying to have more of his 15 minutes or seconds of fame. Actually, David, it's funny. Yesterday, he said that he and his congregation were going to pray about this. So I would imagine God told them it was a bad idea.
Well, Robert Gates certainly told him it was a bad idea. Maybe that had more influence than anything.
It definitely had influence. I mean, I'm not sure what went on behind closed doors, but obviously I think Gates had a big influence on him stopping this, because I think it is a national security issue, as Monica brought up. In my mind, it's two complete radicals. The imam and a clergyman in Florida are both very radical. I don't think they speak for the masses of their religions, and I'm glad to see that they're not going to be doing that, but now time to move the mosque.
Last word, Nebraska Senator Ben Nelson throwing his support to extend the Bush tax cuts. Now, Nelson's move is the latest in a growing divide among Democrats over taxes. The list includes former Budget Director Peter Orszag, as we mentioned, who proposed extending the tax cuts earlier in the week. So, Leslie, what is a Democratic Party to do with people like Orszag and Ben Nelson and others who are more moderate?
I don't know. I guess being that I'm left of the moderates, vote them out, or, you know, tell them to put an I or an R next to their name. Certainly, if you're going to be part of a party, whether it's a Democratic or Republican party, you need to align yourself with that party or separate yourself from it, as Joe Lieberman did. Yeah,
you know, Monica, I got to say, I totally disagree with the president's policy on this, on a whole range of elements. I think it's the worst thing you could do at a time like this in the economy. But at least he's saying, this is where I stand. I'm not going to move.
He drew a line in the sand.
He makes him, he's an easy person to distinguish now in this thing.
I mean, Obama didn't pull his usual on the one hand. On the other hand, he actually drew a line in the sand. Look, Peter Orszag, his first statement after leaving the budget job in the White House, comes out and says extend all of the Bush tax cuts, basically saying, look, I'm looking to President Bush for a lifeline here on the economy after trashing Bush, all the Democrats for 2 years. Look, I think you got to look at the history. Every time there has been a reduction in the marginal tax rates from John F. Kennedy through Ronald Reagan to George W. Bush, you've seen added revenue into the Treasury. Tax cuts work not just for individuals and small and big businesses, but also for the government.
We're not even talking about tax cuts. We're talking about leaving taxes where they are.
I mean, this is simple economics, really. There's certain days I wake up in the morning, I look at the television, I think to myself, has President Obama ever had a simple economics class, intro to economics, because it makes 0 sense, and Wall Street shows that, because when they talk about this, you see Wall Street and stock markets fall, and that really rules our economy. So they need to be extended, and I hope to God they are. For my client's sake.
He's about to cry here on national television. All right, President Obama taking on House Minority Leader John Boehner several times in his speech yesterday. Take a look.
Let me be clear to Mr. Boehner. In fact, when Mr. Boehner was here in Cleveland, when these same Republicans, including Mr. Boehner, these same Republicans turned a record surplus into a record deficit.
Now, Obama mentioned Boehner a total of 8 times. Is targeting Boehner a good political move for the president? Monica, what do you think?
Here's the deal. For the last 2 years, actually more, President Obama's been targeting George W. Bush and Dick Cheney and made them the antichrists. That no longer is working. People are over that. And actually, President Bush is looking pretty good, relatively speaking, here. So now he's got to find another demon, and it's John Boehner. But this is not a good move because, you know what? Most Americans, including a lot of Republicans, don't give a flying whit.
Well, actually, Leslie, it's a great point. Most Americans don't know who John Boehner is.
That's pretty sad. That's where education comes in. But I have to say, Monica, Republicans are still blaming Bill Clinton, and he hasn't been in the White House for much longer. But when we look at what the president was doing, I don't think it's demonizing. I think it's addressing a man that has been demonizing him, and he's in the state of Ohio, in Cleveland, where John was standing saying these things about the president. So now John Boehner has to say, I'm rubber and you're glue, and everything you say bounces off me and sticks to you. Is that right, Leslie? Hey, this is politics,
that's the
right?
Next step.
This my mother, your mother wears army boots
exactly.
kind of a season.
I mean, that's why. Is there any wonder why America doesn't like politics right now?
No, I mean, it's like a Mad Lib. They just took out the word Bush and put in Boehner. They just, just bashed him instead. You know, really, when you bash somebody else in politics, it tells me that you don't have any type of solution to the problem. I mean, if President Obama really had a solution to this issue right now, I think he'd be talking about that. But the only thing that he has is to bash somebody else. So you're playing the same game as Boehner.
Matt's got the last word again coming up on deck. It's sort of official.